Hello and welcome to Web3 TV. I'm Lisa Amnegard, and today we're at the Future Sustainability Forum right here in Dubai. And joining me right now is Laura Jepson, partner of public sector sustainability at Deloitte. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
How's your day been so far?
It's been great. There's tons of people here. The speakers have been really good. Learning a lot.
It's been great. I think there's over 3,000 attendees this year. So
it's big. It's big.
And you're from Deloitte, and you've written so many different reports, and really been spearheading this front when it comes to promoting a greener economy. So I would just like to ask you, what kind of conversations do you want to discuss today when there's so many people from banking and other sectors attending?
Yeah, I think the theme of today around empowering economies is really important. My background is actually in economic development. That's how I started my career. And to me, one of the most important aspects of this is that the sustainability transformation goes hand in hand with economic prosperity, and they drive each other. The more that we develop our economies, innovate, and find new solutions, the more that will enable sustainability transformation. And the more that we become more sustainable, the more that we ensure that our economy is going to remain robust and that we'll avoid some of the big economic risks that exist from climate change and other aspects of reaching our planetary boundaries. So I think that's really the key message, I think, around this is sustainability doesn't have to be, it's not just risk, it's not just regulation, it's not just saying no to things. It's thinking about creative ways for us to find new solutions that work better for all parts of society.
Yeah, when it comes to businesses trying to sort of manage their business to be more green, what do you think the biggest challenges are for that?
It kind of depends on where they are on the journey. So I think for a lot of companies that are starting out, it's initially a data problem, right? So if you look at the European regulations like CSRD, one of the big challenges is that this is the first time those companies are being asked to collect this type of data. Definitions are changing. There's not a clear taxonomy in a lot of these cases. They don't know where to get the data from. They may not have the tools or technology to collect the data that they need. And there's a huge cost involved in setting up all of the infrastructure around this. So I think typically that's the first problem that companies face. Once they've got the data, the next big challenge is switching from, as I say, a kind of risk compliance reporting mentality to a boardroom mentality. And that's saying we're not just going to measure this, we're not just going to collect data sets and let them sit on our computers, but we're going to do something with it. We're going to look at it and say, how could we run our business better? How do we embed sustainability into our overall business strategy so that we have a more efficient, more innovative company? We're addressing new customer segments, we're developing new products, we're thinking about a new business model. All of those opportunities exist when you really start understanding how an individual business is impacting sustainability measures, whether it's emissions, whether it's circularity, whether it's something else.
So it's looking more on an overall point of view and for the long term as well.
And I think that's one of the challenges. It is a very long-term problem. And a lot of companies, especially companies that are publicly traded, they are quarterly based or at most yearly, their annual reports. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult for companies to think about their own timeframes, their own initiatives in a 5 to 10 year timeframe. I think private companies, family-owned companies are actually better at doing that because they can think about, if it's a family company, they're actually thinking about, I want to give this company to my children, so let's make the investments to make sure that it is sustainable. I also think that boardrooms have a big role to play in doing this. Boardrooms are supposed to be where they're keeping the good of the company in the longer term in mind, versus, not that a CEO doesn't do that, but they're more in the day-to-day. It's the boardroom's job to think about this and say, how are we going to build a sustainable business that is doing the right things for society so that we're still relevant, in 10 or 15 years, depending on how the future looks.
Exactly. I think that's very true. And with the UAE's vision when it comes to sustainability, they're quite forward. and you working here in the region, how's the response been from companies? Are they thinking more in terms of how they can be more sustainable, or how's the feedback approach been like?
Yeah. It's actually, there's a pretty high level of awareness. I think there's a high level of awareness. I think we need to improve the general level of education. Sustainability is a complex topic, and there's many different aspects to it. Most people think of it more in terms of net zero and decarbonization and the emissions that are coming. But there's things like circularity, there's the impact on nature, on food systems, and so you need to, overall environmental health. I think there needs to be a better level of understanding about the different complexities.
And then probably, I guess, see where you can be more sustainable.
Well, exactly. People might not even know what opportunities exist because they don't realize the different areas that are relevant here. But I think, we, as Deloitte, we actually do, we call it the CXO sustainability report. So we ask C-suite executives what their views are on a number of different topics, including sustainability. And when you look at the global report and you look at the Middle East report, you actually find that on several metrics, the Middle East is actually further ahead. So if you think about, I can't remember the numbers exactly, but there's more CEOs who put sustainability transformations in their top 3 concerns than the global average. Investments in sustainability transformations are higher in the middle, or not higher, but more investments are being made in the Middle East than the global average. So there's a lot of indicators that people in this part of the world really understand the importance of the problem, not least because this was a very long summer. But yeah, I do think people are aware of it. They see the importance of it. I think it's just about increasing education and understanding of what the solution looks like.
Yeah, and there are so many solutions as we've seen here today. There are so many sponsors that have great ideas in order to achieve net zero, and also the Paris Agreement, and other types of sustainability measures. But when we look at, for example, AI, or, for example, blockchain technology, do you think these types of technologies could spearhead these efforts quicker?
I do. I think there's a challenge in actually understanding the best way to apply them, right? So I think if you think about AI, if you think about some of the incredible potential that has, I can absolutely see a world where there's an AI model built to say, what are the things that we need to do in the next 6 months, in the next 12 months, in the next 5 years to solve sustainability? And an AI model will be able to give us those components of our global supply chains, of our ways of living that are going to have the biggest impact. I don't think we're there yet. I think that's a little bit further out. I don't think ChatGPT will give us that answer. But I do think that's definitely one of the positive sides of AI in the debate about AI, and it isn't good or bad. I think it's one of the positive things. But something like blockchain, Deloitte has a thought leadership piece that's coming out with a company called Seafood Souk that's based in the UAE, and they use a blockchain solution to increase traceability along the seafood supply chain. Before I'd met them, before we did this thought leadership piece, it had never occurred to me that that would be a use of blockchain, right? And so I think what you need is people that, again, going back to the education point, that understand these technologies and understand what needs to be done in sustainability to make the connection and find those innovations that are going to bring about, a transformation.
And see how they can benefit rather than just be this technology that people don't understand or they don't know how to use it.
Exactly.
Especially also when it comes to carbon emissions. Blockchain technology has also been a tool for companies to reduce their carbon emissions.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of Deloitte has its own, decarbonization pathways tool. There's a lot of solutions out there. I think there's a lot more learning, as I say, as we get more data, as we increase the granularity of the data that we have, those tools will continue to improve. But yeah, there's some great innovations out there, and if we keep working towards it, then who knows what's possible.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's so exciting as well, because it's sort of a combined effort. Everybody's collaborating, and by being here today, is there anything that's excited you or that you were inspired about?
Just the number of people that are here, honestly. I mean, I think, it's when I speak to colleagues in, North America or Europe, they're always a little bit skeptical that we have a sustainability practice in the Middle East. They said, don't you guys do a lot of oil and gas? And I think it's important to realize that people in this region really care about this issue, and it is increasingly top of mind. And then there's a lot of local solutions that are coming out, a lot of things that we're doing. This is the second year of sustainability for the UAE. I don't know if they're going to do a third one, but I hope so.
Yeah, no,
it's a big priority for governments and for people out here. And so just seeing the engagement, I think, is nice to have that reinforced that I'm not a lone soldier.
No, exactly. No. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It was a really interesting speaking with you.
Thank you so much for asking the questions.
And thank you so much for watching Web3 TV, friends. We'll be back with more interviews.